Before I move on to number one, could I just ask if there are any board members on the phone or Zoom?
Probably the other half is gonna be dialed one.
Okay. Then we will move on to public comment. And our first speaker that has signed up is Christine Tierney. I ask that you keep it to 3 minutes and please state your name and address before you begin. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me from here? My name is Christine Tierney. I live in 15, I'm one of the volunteers. I bathe the dogs every week. All right. I'll use my teacher voice. The volunteers, as I think most people know, are extremely concerned about the status of Joel and Java. We have tried a lot to find fosters for them. We haven't been able to. Lynn Harpham has been able to find a rescue that will take them, but before they will commit, we have to find fosters. They have looked, we have looked. The volunteers have offered various solutions. We have found places for them to Final Frontier is a little bit shy about getting into a boarding situation since they already have so many dogs that are boarded. But I recently spoke with Audra Estrada. Some of you will, of course, remember her from the shelter. She's at Pet Suites. And they actually will offer us boarding for them if the rescue commits to them at no charge, so that would not be a financial burden on Final Frontier. Final Frontier had asked for videos of people talking about Joel and Java. Some of us had very good relationships with the dogs, and permission to video the dogs was denied. Lynn put in a written request for permission to video the dogs and has heard absolutely nothing from it. We're very frustrated. It seems that every time we make a suggestion that we think will help the situation, we're told that, well, there are legal issues and we don't understand them, and the legal issues supersede everything else. Well, I can understand why the city is hesitant and would not want to get into a situation where the dog could potentially bite someone. But if we're talking about a boarding kennel, any dog that's in the boarding kennel could potentially bite. Any dog in the shelter could potentially bite. So we wonder at the validity of some of these delaying tactics that we have run into. We'd like to find out what is happening. What has legal come to any decision on this? And I want to just reiterate that when I started looking into this, I looked for a mission statement. Well, I couldn't ever find one place that there was a mission statement.
Our 3 minutes are.
I think that's something that needs to be articulated clearly. What is our mission?
Our second speaker is Charlene Avery.
Little legs. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a hoarse voice, but so hopefully y'all can hear me. Okay. Hi, my name is Charlene Avery. I live on Topaz Trail in Sugar Land. I want to thank Melissa and her management team for taking time out of their busy schedules to meet with Pansy Chung and myself. I am encouraged about several of the new programs and changes that we have been seeing. I was happy to help with the latest project too, so they can keep sending them. I'm also happy to see that in addition to the AAV mission as required by state law on advising and recommending policies and overseeing our shelter, that they are being encouraged to assist and work with citizens as well on other types of adoption or funding raising efforts. It will be nice for volunteers and people like myself and our community get to know our AAB members a little better and work with in a more cohesive fashion on fundraising and things of that nature. I think and I did want to make one mention. I think adopter, foster, urgent, or medical lists are important. I recognize that this is not a sanctuary, it is a municipal shelter. But if they are on an urgent list, I think that we would be more than happy to search to seek assistance in finding them a placement. But I do not agree with the current policy of setting up EU push lists. That is not what Sugar Land has ever operated like or have. And it is, in my mind, an extremely slippery slope when you start putting dogs on the list. Thank you. I didn't get to Lynn. Sorry, Lynn.
Thank you. We will now move on to minutes. Have you reviewed the minutes, and is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I have a question.
Okay.
Last meeting was a while ago in March. And I remember as reflected here in the proposed minutes that I brought up an issue involving a pre-euthanasia checklist. And between now and then, I've heard nothing in response to my comments. Don't have what purports to be that checklist, and I would like to get it. I'd like to be able to read it and find out how any staff has responded to the comments made back in March.
That's reasonable. It was an open item. I mean, it was a comment you made.
It was, and it's on the minutes that you're asking us to approve. So I'm suggesting that I would like to get a response to what I said in March.
And the comment was removing length of stay.
Yes, but it also had to do with the entire checklist of what staff would go through in making a decision and whether to move forward or look for alternative. And in response to the comment, I've had 5 months of silence. And so I would like to get a response to that. I'm prepared to approve the minutes as reflective of what went on, but I still would like to.
Sorry.
Do I have 3 minutes? So what I would like to do is to see what staff is operating under. We have brought it up a while ago, and I think that euthanasia decisions ought to be postponed until the board gets a chance to see what the response is.
I can send out that checklist, and your length of stay was removed, but that all happened before I even got there. But I can send it out to the board.
Yeah, and you know, we were involved in a lot of policy decisions and standard operating procedures and so forth. And again, it's been so long that I kind of lost where we are on some of those things. Standard operating procedures and policies are things which have historically gone before this board, and I think they should continue to be. And it would be useful for the board to be able to get a printed out version of what today's policies and procedures are, so that we can rethink the whole thing.
I'm gonna address that later in the presentation too. Oh, yeah, I'll address it in the presentation today.
Okay, so then am I hearing that you do want to approve the minutes?
Well, the minutes are right in saying that it was addressed, but there just wasn't any response. And I wanted to take the opportunity, since it's part of the minutes, to address that issue.
So do I have a motion to
I move to
approve
approve.
the minutes?
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you. The minutes have been approved, and we will move on to the workshop, animal shelter updates. This will be presented by Melissa Hobson.
Good afternoon. So This is kind of what we're gonna go through today. I'm gonna introduce myself to you as well to Mark. Give you my starting point for our mission and vision, go through our new organizational structure, give you updates on staffing, operational updates and different activities that we're currently working on, share with you what my strategic priorities are over the next few months. I'd like to give you an update on what's going on with the planning of the new animal shelter. And then talking about what I foresee y'all's role being going forward. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I have 10 years experience in veterinary medicine. And I've also served as the manager for animal services in Midland, Texas. I hold an MBA and a Master of Science in Leadership, and then I have an undergraduate degree in biology from the University of Texas. In terms of leadership, I find myself to be a servant leader. So although I intend to always lead with data, it's important for me to empower my staff to make decisions, to build those strong partnerships with staff and the community. And then make sure that what we're doing is grounded in transparency, accountability, and then doing our best to find humane outcomes for every animal in our care. I'm passionate about education. I did serve as a high school science teacher for 6 years. That really drives me in this role. I think education for the community is very important. I have become a Sugar Land resident. I am raising my son here, so thank you for welcoming me to the community. But that also makes it a really personal investment for myself being here. And I'm genuinely excited. I just finished my first 90 days and I'm excited to move forward. Mark, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Grothus. So I retired from the city with 30 years of public service. And after about 3 years of retirement, I came back to a part-time position and then came back to the work for animal services. So many moons ago, I went to Texas Tech and graduated. My leadership philosophy, I always preach it, is just stick to the basics, stick to the basics, stick to the basics. Because until you master the basics, it's hard to move forward. And I'm impressed with the level of community support that we've received, just the upcoming shelter, the investment that the city's made just is very meaningful. So we're trying to match our business model and our interactions with our employees and staff to match that beautiful shelter that will be here in a couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So for mission and vision, we as the management team of animal services, as well as various staff members for animal services and then stakeholders throughout the city. We're working alongside Strategic and Government Affairs Department here with the city to create a new strategic plan for animal services. At this time, this is my mission and vision, kind of my starting point. It will be refined once we have that meeting with them. So I see our mission, it's the foundation of everything we do at Animal Services. At its core, it's protecting both the community and the animals in our care. And that happens through education, enforcement, and then encouraging responsible pet ownership. Our vision, to take it a step further, is we want to create a safe, well-informed community that is capable of showing compassionate care to every animal. And that means prioritizing education as well as outreach, while always keeping public safety at the forefront. I intend to, and the staff intends to use our mission and vision statement to guide us in decisions we make going forward.
I have a comment on that. I emailed you today. I really think that that's a great starting place. And I appreciate your sharing that this week because this, as you said, this is the guiding star. This, everything reflects the mission. But I would really like the Animal Advisory Board to have a role in crafting and workshopping it. It's vital as we ask the community to, for a tax increase, for building the new shelter, for fundraising, for outreach, just so that everybody knows everybody knows what our goals are. It's vital that we really take some time and get this right. And I think the Animal Advisory Board is a really good group of people to help work on this.
When we get the strategic plan together, it would be something I shared with y'all. We could look it over, discuss it. But it's gonna take several months though. The city's process is full days of us sitting there going through it, but I will share that.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, I want to give you an overview of our organizational structure because it has recently changed. So at the top, I serve as the administrator, and Mark is underneath me and serves as the deputy administrator. And then we have our 3 divisions. So we have the shelter supervisor, where we have 4 full-time kennel techs, 2 part-time kennel techs, and 2 full-time vet techs. And these are the staff members that handle the daily care and cleaning and medical support for the animals. Next, we have the field supervisor with 3 full-time animal services officer that serve underneath them. They're the ones that are really our voice to the community. They're the ones out there every day. Important for me to have them is working on education, and then enforcement, field response, and then community safety. And then finally, we have the administrative manager. And what we're working under them is an intake and adoption specialist. And then our 2 community engagement specialists. And their role is really to get those animals adopted, build those partnerships with different organizations in the community. So this structure, it ensures that we're covering shelter operations, field operations, and community engagement. And we're really trying to, as a management team, bring the staff together because as you'll know, there's been a lot of changes over the last several years. There's a lot of division even within animal services. So we're working on coming together. So current staffing. Since the last meeting in March, we have filled the animal services administrator position with myself, Mark's position. We hired a full-time kennel technician. And as of maybe 2 weeks ago, we hired an intake and adoption specialist. What is currently vacant is our field supervisor, our animal service officer, and a part-time kennel technician. All 3 are currently listed. Actually, the field supervisor's closed. We've had our first round of interviews. I know this Friday we have a second interview coming into town to meet with us in person. And we should have a decision on that in a few weeks. Animal service officer and the kennel technician, those were just listed last week. So we hope to have some candidates for those positions. One thing I want you to know is there's only 4 staff members total in our in our field services, and 2 of those positions are open. So although we've increased in some of the things that we are offering in the field, we are down 50%. Right. Move on to operational updates. So one of the biggest changes that we made recently is updating our hours. We're no longer closed for lunch. We stay open later, 2 hours later each day. And we no longer lock the doors. And I started, the doors were locked. If somebody wanted assistance, they had to knock on a window. So during operating hours, the doors are always open. The results have been positive. We started this on June 28th. Visitor traffic per day has increased about 27% under a new schedule. And this is more opportunities for those adoption, reclaims, and just community connections. In addition, we began hosting animal advocacy meetings. Yes.
I was just curious how you, did you hire more people or did you just kind of change employee hours around in order to exchange, well, very nice.
They're working harder.
Yeah, no, it's.
So the
credit to
changes
you.
did not, I mean, that was a lot. When I first started, I thought, oh my God, this is the best shelter hours ever. I get to, have an hour lunch that's quiet. I get to go home like at a decent time. But I mean, that's not what's best for the community. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, we changed their hours. And so longer shifts.
Yeah, cause I know it's just harder to visit a shelter when, like the usual 9 to 5, when a lot of citizens work the 9 to 5, so.
And we added 1 extra hour on Saturday.
I have a question about the hours. So on
Yeah.
Wednesday and Sunday, when you're closed, when are people there at the shelter in terms of staff and caring for the animals, and how many times are the animals getting fed?
So on Sunday, they are there for a half day. And then on Wednesday, we're there a full day. So Sunday's the only day. I don't know if
It's
they,
5 hours.
So on Sunday, how many times are the dogs and cats getting fed?
do you know if it's Mark, it's 1 or twice?
I don't know specifically, no.
I think it's one's extra, like the larger amount one time, but I would have to check with the.
Yeah, because especially in the cat building with the younger cats, going 24 hours and only eating once, and especially the way wet food dries out, that not acceptable for cats or kittens in particular.
Another question?
For those situations, because I've worked at shelters that very much just did not have the funds to have staff there like a full day, 7 days a week. During kitten season, I would usually advise the kennel staff on weekends to, when you first get there, feed out the young kittens and then, go about clean the dogs, feed out everybody else. And then when you come back, clean the cat rooms, then feed them out a second portion. That's how I've recommended that they get through the shorter days, just because it's unavoidable with some places. So, but that's still, you can, freshen up the food. So if that helps.
No, it does help, because one thing that people don't realize with animal services is we're expected to operate 24 hours a day with all our on-call and all the animals in our care, but we don't nearly have the staffing for that. So that's why we switched kind of some of this around, with Sunday being our only half day, and they are there for the 5 hours.
It's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to increase how much you feed them, but you can do like a half a can of wet food.
Yeah.
And then you just change the wet food out. Cause I know with the kittens you feed ad litem for the dry food. So just a tidbit if it helps.
I wanted to go over our programs. You're probably aware of most of them. So we have several of these programs extend beyond our impact, just the shelter. We have our volunteer programs, where the residents get involved, providing hands-on help for us. We have our foster program, which gives safe temporary homes, especially with animals that need extra care, our medical cases. We recently established a pet pantry. So it is Sugar Paws Pet Pantry, which provides supplies for pet owners who are struggling financially. The goal is to be able to help residents keep that pet in their care, and so they're not having to surrender them or finding a new home for that animal.
I have a question. Going forward, could we have specific numbers about residents versus non-residents that are using our pet pantry?
So we only do it for Sugarland residents. And we have helped 42 families since June 8th, I think is when we began.
Well, I think the day you opened, I was told that there were 5 Sugarland residents and the rest of the donations had gone to outside the Sugarland area. And understand, especially if it's donations,
Yeah.
I'm willing to help whomever needs it. However, I think that there needs to be a clear, the numbers need to be clear. What is Sugarland, especially if something like that gets adopted internally and taxpayers are paying for that? I just think it's important to be clear about whether we're doing this for Sugarland residents or others.
And with the exception of that first time, because we didn't have a whole lot of Sugarland residents sign up, going forward, we've only helped Sugarland residents, so.
Well, can I qualify that a little bit? It's
Yeah.
not necessarily out of pet pantry, but we try to help anyone that comes to the door. So we have open food that's donated, and a lot of times we try to, if it's a county dog or a Harris County dog, we don't just say we can't help you get lost. We try to give them supplies, anything to help them, so they don't just dump the dog down the street on Highway 90 or something. So it's not part of the pet pantry, but I just wanted to qualify that we pretty much help anyone that we can that comes to the door. So,
And I support that.
yeah, I mean,
It's just that I think we have residents who are very interested in, what are Sugarland residents needing versus not. And I just think it's important for us to know the
Yeah.
difference.
No, and that's why I qualify. But the pet pantry started big, just as, hey, and then we realized, okay, we'll probably scope it down to Sugarland residents only. And that's what we're doing now. But I do want you to know we do have resources that we can help other people.
We have our trap neuter release, our return program, so TNR. It helps us manage our community cats. And then finally, we have our Pet Finder. It's a community-driven tool that allows residents who either found or lost a dog or cat, actually even birds, to help reunite them. One thing that I'm considering changing is the name Pet Finder. It is a good name. However, it's the same name that Purina uses for theirs. And I think there can be some confusion. So we're kind of looking at something we can change it to. So I'd be happy if you want to email me suggestions. So together, these programs kind of reflect our focus really on prevention and then supporting the community. We have some new initiatives as well. First, we have expanded our adoption partnerships. That was one of the things we noticed when we came on, is there really were not at as many events as we would have liked. So we started doing Wagging Wednesdays, where we take animals to the Sugarland Space Cowboys games. We do bi-weekly adoption events at Petco. We take animals to the farmers market. We recently participated in a mega adoption event with Petco. And we're currently working with Clear the Shelter Initiative. And we have a new partnership we just started this past week. We're still kind of seeing what it looks like, but we have a local realtor who's willing to sponsor any new homeowner, sponsor an adoption so they get their new home in Sugarland, they get a new friend, and she's creating door hangers and stuff. So we're constantly looking to try to think outside of the box. Another program we're implementing is Finder to Foster. Some of y'all probably already heard of it. We have been helping residents that come our way, but we are working on finalizing it in terms of policy and procedures. This will allow residents who find a stray pet to keep them temporarily with our support. while they try to locate the owner. It provides them with all the supplies they need to take care of that animal, as well as guidance, so the animal doesn't come into the stressful shelter environment. We're planning a full launch this October. And lastly, we have the Snifflets program. It's designed for puppies and kittens who have just been weaned, but they're not old enough to be spayed and neutered. Rather than keeping them in the shelter during that time where they really should be bonding with people and they're really vulnerable to disease, it allows them to be adopted sooner. And then we schedule surgery at that adoption time. At time of adoption, they get a surgery date, and our veterinary technicians are the ones that follow up and make sure that it is actually happening. It helps reduce the length of stay for those vulnerable animals, and it places them into homes faster so that they're bonding with people and not missing out with that connection in those early few weeks. So through these initiatives, we're continuing to just try to be innovative and come up with new ideas. We recently had a community vaccine and microchip clinic in June. It was a 2-day clinic. It was pretty successful. Over the course of the event, we provided 62 microchips, 70 vaccinations to dogs, and 38 to cats. It's really important. Yes.
Is this the result? Are these microchips that were left over, or have we renewed or reapplied for the grant that gave us those in the past?
I believe those were used up. We used donation money
Oh.
to help purchase these, and we're currently looking for more grants. So it's really important to prevent disease, to help get animals back to their owners if they get out. Our next vaccine clinic is going to be scheduled for September 21st. And we're hoping to get more community participation. Going forward, we'd like to have these vaccine clinics quarterly.
How do we advertise that?
I know that, so the shelter manager page is current, she just decided on this day last week. One thing that bothers me, one thing that I think that we really need to improve on, and we're actively coaching staff, is that these events need to be advertised a lot sooner, not the day of, the week of. So she's going to be putting that together, and I can send it out to y'all, the graphic, and if y'all could help some of that would be great.
We could do that.
Yeah, share that. Something double.
I would just also like to say that there's specific areas of Sugar Land that could really use that. And it would be great if we could focus some of our direction toward those areas so that they are aware that this is happening. And they may be areas that aren't, typically on our Facebook or.
Next door, yeah. No, any assistance. You're welcome to provide that feedback. Email it to me and we can work out a plan on how to disseminate that. I know with the pet pantry, we're having kind of the same issue. So we started handing them out, like at the senior center, they have flyers available. Handing them out at the churches that have food banks. We're trying to find the right people to give this information to. And that's where the starting point of where we send these, but if y'all have other ideas.
Actually, some of the audience members here write up these meetings on Nextdoor and they get 1,000 or 2,000 views, I believe.
Yeah, that would be. Right, student internships. We're in the process of building the partnerships with local schools, including James Reese, Technical Center. I know over the summer, we also had Crawford High School, Bullshire High School provide interns to us. Our internships, it gives students that hands-on experience. They get to work with the vet techs to learn feeding, cleaning, monitoring health. They learn how to handle the animals, give vaccines, microchips. We're finalizing, we want a very structured program, so the shelter manager is working on, like a standard operating procedure, what does each student need to learn throughout the process? We plan on expanding it now that we've had these 5 completed. Going forward, we'd like to, we only have 2 vet techs, so we want to keep it manageable for them. But they think they could each take on, a couple students at a time, so. And I believe the shelter manager is reaching out to James Reese, now that school's back in session, so we can get that started. So, this all not only benefits the students, but it really benefits the staff. It gives them the opportunity to learn how to manage somebody, and to take the skills that they've learned and to show somebody else how to do it. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, staff training is something that's really important to me. So especially on Wednesdays, we have a majority of the staff there. Those are going to be the days that we have the opportunity to focus on staff training. So at the end of August, we are going to participate in understanding canine interactions. This will help the staff learn about canine communication, body language, behavior management in the shelter setting. Many of especially our shelter technicians or techs, they come in without animal handling or any knowledge of working with the animals other than they love them. So this really gives them a starting point. In September, our team's participating in shelter animal behavior therapy. So this will build on those skills and help staff recognize and respond to behavioral needs of animals in our care. And then we're also going to have Dogs Playing for Life come out. Their training focuses on structured play groups, how to put them together, individualized training. So we hope it will improve the lives of the animals in our care because they're not isolated. They get that interaction with other animals. So the trainings, my intention is it's an investment in the staff, where ultimately the animals are the ones that benefit. All right, the numbers. So this slide shows a look at our animal intakes over the past couple years. On the left, you can see 2024 by each month. Like many shelters, we see our peaks in spring and summer months when it is warmer out. In the middle, right here, you see so far our 2025 numbers. You'll notice very similar seasonal trends. Our heaviest month were June and July, where we took in over 250 animals during that period, many of them cats. And then over here on the right, you will see fiscal year by comparison. 2023 and 2024 were very similar. 2025 has potential because I know since I've come on board, we've kind of ended up being warmer. We've kind of increased the number of animals we're intaking. But currently it's trending a little bit lower. And we're hoping with like Finder to Foster and we can keep animals out of the shelter so they're not stressed out and getting sick. But tracking these numbers, it really helps us plan going forward with our staffing resources, as well as community outreach during those peak months, make sure that we're getting animals adopted.
I have a question about that. So tied into that, in the past, we've had the notice on the webpage and social media that the shelter's been closed to intake.
Mhm.
Are you still doing that? And where are we with that in terms of dogs, since that's where the problem seems to be?
Yeah, so we are currently not closing intake. It's important to me, we're taxpayer funded. really can't close the doors. It has created some I don't want to say inhumane, some conditions for dogs that I am not comfortable with, but where they're in bangers, so like those wire cages. We do have a couple of those. Thankfully, we've been able to get animals adopted. Do we currently have any, in bangers?
Yes, the little ones.
The two parvo.
No, they're in the meet and greet. Oh, yeah,
We have two small dogs.
right, too small.
Two small dogs. We've been getting lots of little small white terriers.
With brown spots.
Which
Out of nowhere, just the
out of nowhere, so they gotta be related somehow, but they're also just little things, even though we're full. To answer your question, no, we're not closed for intake. But we try to rotate the dogs somewhat when we can, so they, if they're not stuck inside all the time. But so it's kind of a constant juggling act. And we have some dogs that were brought in together that we've kept together, which isn't ideal by the book, but they seem to be happy together, and they were brought in together, so we're.
And they're
we're
altered.
full. Yeah.
They're altered. You're not gonna be making it.
Yes, no.
So if you're not closed for intake, which is great, there's a number that we as a board, and I think it's, I don't know if ordinance or policy is the right word, for capacity for care. So how are you managing that in terms of, does that no longer apply, or
So
is that, I'm pretty sure, help me out, board, is that a policy?
I
a city
think we approved it, but then I think it was rescinded.
it's not something I'm aware of.
I mean, we
I know in terms of like standards of care, keeping dogs in bangers is not humane. And we do not, I do not want the walls lined with them. So we're trying to figure out like finder to foster in different programs. It has helped that we've had some people willing to do finder to foster. We've increased our events, so we're getting a little bit more adoptions.
Staff takes dogs home
Yeah.
at times to help out, so it's
It's gonna be a juggling act. I don't know what the answer is. I know when we have a new shelter, it will be a little bit easier, but to be honest, when you have kennels, they will fill up.
Well, for years, I mean, the last couple, there was this, the city kept saying, we're at our capacity for care. That's why we're closed for intake. We can't, this is a number that was decided and it's a policy. And, we were trying to say, no, the number is too low. The capacity for care number is too low, and it didn't go anywhere. So that's why I'm wondering, did that policy change? And I thought it was more of a written down kind of thing in the city ordinance, because for so many years, that's what we were told, we're at capacity for care and we're not doing anything about it. And it was a really low number, and that's great that you're taking more. I just was wondering, in terms of policy and procedure, how did that number suddenly get to be changed?
I'm not sure if it's written down. I haven't seen it as an actual hard and fast policy. One thing we have done, because we are a city facility, is we've kind of tightened a little bit on we're making Sugar Land residents prove, for lack of a better word, that they're really a Sugar Land resident, that they really found a dog in Sugar Land. And there's a friendly way to do that, but
Can't prove it.
sometimes we can't prove it, but so we're diverting probably more animals than we were several months ago, where we're just having through customer service. And this is why our new intake adoption specialist is just great at customer service. So rather than be confrontational with the county resident that wants to drop off their pity with us, she's really good at providing them resources or helping them to get to the correct place to go. So it is a juggling act, but.
Yeah, we found, our focus really is on customer service, and we found if you ask the right questions and you have the right person doing it, majority of the animals coming in the shelter are not from Sugar Land. And so, it's taxpayer money, and it's important to me that we stick with Sugar Land animals. So a lot of the animals are being sent to like Fort Bend County or different cities. Because we don't regularly euthanize animals, that's what usually people came, well, they sent me here because you're not gonna euthanize it. But it's not the taxpayer's responsibility to take care of animals outside of Sugar Land. So it's kind of where we're at.
I bring up related to capacity for care. I hear about all these great new programs and they are great. We appreciate you supporting all these programs with the community. I realize we haven't always been fully staffed. As a volunteer who's there a lot, I'm sure y'all get tired of me voicing my opinions, right, Mark? I've got several examples that tell me that there are things that I don't think are acceptable as far as the dogs, who's what I see. A dog that we've had for a few months that he came in severely underweight, skin and bones looked to me like on death's door. It was at least 2 months before it was addressed in what I consider a satisfactory manner.
You're about Archie, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and in my, well, I'm not a vet, I'm not a vet tech. I would have had that dog living at the vet until we figured out what happened. He only got worse. His head looked like it was sunken in. It was a bad situation. A volunteer offered and brought special food from home that she feeds her dogs. It's the volunteers that are worried about these dogs. It took a while. Finally, a second opinion was given. Finally got on better food, finally got a prescription med instead of over the counter. But why did it take so long? Again, the other day, I had mentioned twice to the vet techs, twice in 1 week, about the elderly Akita who had green mucus filling her eyes and crusties totally covering her eyes, and saw nothing being done. It had to have been uncomfortable. Finally, my partner and I obtained some baby wipes from the shelter, and my partner wiped her eyes out until it was totally clean. Why is it taking volunteers to have this interest and action and the level of care? The same time, Mark, I know you were new. Remember, I went to you. Big Mama was in a pop-up in Schnauzers. She had a bed. She had maybe 2 by 2 feet of floor space, was covered in urine and feces. She had nowhere to walk. People were coming in for cat tours or whatever. We were busy. You had some other emergency going on. But when I brought it to your attention, you said, we'll get to it before we leave, which might have been 2 hours from then. To me, that's unacceptable if a dog can't take a step onto a clean surface. So I put her in the side yard and I told you, I cleaned it up. It didn't take more than 5 minutes. I have more examples, but those are just some that make me wonder if the volunteers weren't there. The other thing is dog walking. It previously under management, not great management, but at least staff was ordered to help walk the dogs if there weren't volunteers to walk the dogs. These dogs only get out 10 minutes twice a day. If they don't get out because there aren't dog walkers and staff isn't required to take them out, what happens? They're not socialized enough, which makes them not adoptable, which is one of our problems. People aren't adopting big dogs right now. And they need to get out twice a day. I know everybody's busy, but again, it's unacceptable. Those are minimum standards of care in my book. That's my.
I want to start, well, first with Archie. So Archie was here before we got here. We did notice and we were concerned. So one of the challenges was we had it, when we got there was a diagnosis from the vet. So we just asked for them to get a second opinion. The second opinion had, that gentleman had more experience with this condition. He had had dogs with this success with these enzymes. I think it's called Enzymes by Diane. They're not prescription, they're over the counter. We saw success with it. One of the things we're doing to address these concerns that the volunteers have is that's why we have the animal advocacy meeting. So every other Monday, we have a meeting with the management team of a vet tech and 2 volunteers. So we can go through each of these medical cases and discuss some of the concerns. We can tell y'all what we're doing. We can take feedback on y'all's ideas. And that's one of the ways we're helping to address it. I think that a lot of your other concerns, you're kind of talking to the choir. We can only do with the positions we have. And we make sure that the animals receive minimal care, but sometimes that means 1 walk a day. And that's just because that's the staffing that we have. So that conversation needs to go above us. Staff is welcome to walk dogs as long as they have their job duties complete. I think that some staff members we were having issues with, they were not doing their job continuously. We were coaching them on tasks that we needed them to done on a daily basis, but instead they would go spend out half their day walking dogs. So staff was not told they can't walk dogs. They were told they need to do their job and then they walk dogs.
One thing that,
But I would like to add, and Ellen, you know me, we go back and forth and I always tell you, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh, to make you feel better. Oh, I promise, I'll tell you, it may or may not happen. So a moment in time, sometimes the place is a mess. I get it. And so when I do say, hey, we'll get to it, we're doing the best we can. I don't mean, I hope you don't take that as a flippant remark. It just means like, hey, I get it. But I think Big Mama's doing much better today as well, just like Archie is. I mean, he's got a lifelong enzyme he's gonna have to have added to his food. But yes, there's times you go in there, you're like, oh, it's terrible. But it took some time, but I think we're getting there, so.
And Mark, I will give you kudos because you were the one person that looked into how hot the kennels were.
And we got the supplies and we just got to get them manufactured now, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just in general, in the beginning, it was pretty humorous. Mark came to me and he said, why isn't the AC working? It's 81 degrees in the kennel. Well, Mark, if you look, it's because all the guillotine doors are up and the AC goes out. And then he realized that there was a problem and has taken action to try to get that fixed. And I really appreciate that. It is hot in the kennels. And the other thing to remember, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. If a dog is, even if they're gone like to get spayed or neutered for a few hours, shut that guillotine door. Any help, is anybody actually looking back in the kennels to see what can be done? If a dog is on doggy day out, and that's a few hours, usually with Glenn, shut the doggy door.
We try to lecture that at the mega event.
And also, yes.
Those are little things.
I mean, the only thing better than walking a dog twice a day is 3 times a day. The only thing better is 4 times a day. But there's times when like the techs are cleaning or disinfecting and they'll just put them in a yard and let them run, the side yard or something. So the fact that
It's better than nothing.
the fact it's better than nothing. So it's not falling on deaf ears, but we're doing.
And it's just listening. It seems like there are 2 related problems. Understaffing and the staff you have doesn't know the totality of the job they're supposed to do. I can only encourage you to try and fill those positions as quickly as you can, but maybe with experienced people. Having somebody brand new come in that doesn't know how shelters operate, what animals need, puts them behind the 8 ball because they can't just go out and do the job you hired them for if they've never done it. So I just encourage you to try and get as experienced people as you can and get them as quickly as you can.
I would say, one thing that we are trying to do is hold the staff we have accountable, and I don't know that they were before us. So, you know, oftentimes jobs were not getting done, and we still have to fight that battle because that's what they're used to. So we're working on it. You know, volunteers come in, I know they see people at the desk. What y'all don't see is we've already told them 5 times and we're working on writing them up for it. So, we notice it in terms of, staff that are trained. That's a hard one. That's just because trained staff are not applying. When we hired or applied for that field supervisor position, the level of candidates that we got, and that's somebody who's expected to know state law, as well as managing staff, somebody who can go to court. 98% of probably the people didn't even have animal experience.
I understand. I was thinking more of these,
The lower
it is the lower positions where, to do their job and to walk animals when they have a minute. You know, you might assume that they know that, but perhaps not, and maybe the job description of, you know, what do you do on Monday and what do you do on Wednesday? And type it up on a piece of paper and hand it out and let them read it. And then hold them to it.
Well, I also will say, I'm not, speaking for me, I'm not gonna just blame everything on staffing. And I always go back to, we're a city facility with city employees. So there's things that they have to do and requirements that we all have to meet that really don't revolve around just caring for animals. It's not like we're a private rescue where if a person is hired for 40 hours and they don't do their job, I could fire them. I mean, we have due process, we have appeals, we have all these things. So we're working with it. We've identified some gaps. We're trying to put the right people in the right spots. We're trying to move people out that need to be moved out. All that takes time, but in the meantime, we still have to get the job done as best we can, maybe not even close to B+ or whatever, but so all these things go in together. It's not a matter of, so I'll just leave it at
My
that.
thought was that
Yes.
senior staff can make it easier on junior people by presenting them something that they can look at. If they're, you know, you wanna hold them responsible for something, type it out.
No, there's
And
checklists,
let them know.
whether they follow
what
it or
is.
not.
And hopefully we will get, you know, quality people that come in and they'll care about it.
We have some quality people and one of our recent, just as an example, one of our part-time kennel techs that came to us when we had a full-time spot opened up, she got it and she's phenomenal and she's from another, her home country where she basically was a veterinarian in her home country and has a lot of zoological experience on top of shelter experience. And she works at a clinic in Houston doing surgeries. I mean, and she's like phenomenal. And in fact, I asked her if she had any friends that wants to come work with us.
So I hope you can set a
We're
good.
trying to find good people. So, yeah.
I could suggest, while we're doing all this, is that given our board mandate to review policy and procedure, we have a policy and procedure subcommittee. And actually, when I met Dr. Bender, it was at a policy and procedure subcommittee, and we were with some staff reviewing those policies. So if there's good staff that kind of need to should get an opportunity to grow, reviewing that policy with us might help hopefully raise our level of care.
Thank you.
Just to add one final thing, Marilyn's calling. Everybody's talked about the animal care side of it, which is great. Earlier, when you introduced yourself, realizing you've only been here 90 days, I think. I don't know your tenure since coming back, but
I think I've been here like 96 days.
so leadership development. I live and breathe in that space. That's what I do. train 2,500 people leaders at my company. I'm going to disagree slightly with John. If you hire the right person, you can teach a skill. I've worked in training and development where I hire the most experienced person and they come with the worst habits.
It's like character-based hiring.
Character-based hiring, yes. And when you mentioned servant leadership, transparency, accountability, those are all fancy buzzwords. But until your team knows what you two expect, which is what it sounds like you're doing, they don't know to be held accountable. So I just wanted to touch on what nobody else has really been talking about, your opportunity as leaders. And when you said it a minute ago, it's easy to blame the staff. As a servant leader, you will know this. When something goes wrong, the first question you should ask is, what did I do to create this?
And that's what we.
And that's what you two are doing, which I applaud you for that. So when it comes to hiring, if you hire for a culture or if you hire for your fit for your team, you can teach anybody to do that job. The person that's going to be held accountable, that's who you want to look for. The person who will hold themselves accountable. And I love that you said you're doing that because you probably did inherit a staff that isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And through the guidelines of the city, you can performance them out, as I say in my world. And then you can hire somebody that does have the right mindset. And lastly, your 3 areas of training. I would hope you have some kind of leadership, something in there that we didn't see, because your field people, everybody that works for you at that shelter should know what you two expect when they interact with any of us, with any of the public, and there should never be a question about that. So thank you for that part of the job, and thank you for holding them accountable. Absolutely.
I wanna say
The
we're-
leadership is critical. The rest of the stuff can be taught.
We're holding them accountable
Mhm.
as much as we're allowed to.
Exactly. That's,
I gotta know
I
that.
totally understand. Uh-huh.
We would have gotten rid of a handful of people already,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
city, and we have to do it a certain way.
I do understand that. I used to work for Fort Bend County many, many years ago. So when I heard you say that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give them some grace here because 90 days, 96 days. And I know with your background, you don't need me to tell you that your influence is what's critical right now, not the skill of your team.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, and we do rely, I want to publicly go on record, we do rely on you guys and gals, the volunteers, to help. It's priceless, so I just thank you. Because a lot of things would not be getting done if it wasn't for y'all, so that's just me saying.
Okay, the next slide goes over 2 key measures of progress: live release rate and spay and neuter surgeries. So on the left, you will see our average live release rate over the last few years. There's natural fluctuations month to month. Specifically in 2025, for the most part, we've had a pretty steady, strong kind of average around 80. There was a significant dip in April. And although, we weren't here, after talking to the staff, it seems to correlate with a large number of neonate kittens coming in. Unfortunately, many of them were young and really fragile. We recognize that neonate kittens remain one of our greatest challenges, particularly during, kitten season, so April, May. To address them, we're actively exploring methods to increase their survival rate we need a stronger foster network. Looking at having the staff provide specialized training for bottle babies, for those that are interested in it. And then looking at partnerships with other organizations that have better equipped to take care of neonates. They have 24-hour staffing, like Operation Kindness in Dallas, Austin Pets Alive. So making those partnerships stronger so we can reach out to them for support, or sometimes they may even take on some of those animals. So our goal is to give the more fragile kittens, they need a better chance of survival. After April, you'll see that the rate climbed back up and is stabilized a little bit. There's a lot of seasonal changes. I think so to me, live release rate is better than save rate. Save rate really reflects what's going on in the shelter, but it's more important is what we're releasing out. So going forward, you're gonna see live release rate. We hope to continue to improve it, but when it comes to foster kittens, we have a long way to go. Thankfully, we're out of the season, so the shelter manager, along with the foster coordinator are looking at ways we can improve that program, get it into place before next kitten season. On the right, you will see our spay and neuter surgeries that we performed so far this year. So we've altered 258 cats, 109 dogs, which, as y'all know, we wouldn't be in this position if more animals were spayed and neutered. So that part's really important to us, and finding affordable care. We reach out to, we rely on the local veterinarians to perform these surgeries. I was really shocked when I saw the amount of money that in the Houston area that shelters are paying. It's at least double, if not triple what I saw in West Texas. So we have the shelter supervisor working on some comparisons, and we're trying to work with like different high volume spay and neuter options. Our field operations, we've made a lot of transition to a more proactive model. So that was one of the things that we noticed is the officers were really just sitting around animal services waiting for calls. But they play a critical role in our community. So we're really shifting toward that proactive model, which means they're out in the neighborhoods addressing issues. They're patrolling, especially parts of the city that sees more animals getting dumped. We're also working on a solution focus. So previously, they would just say, no, we don't do that. Nope, we can't help you. And Mark's really worked with officers to challenge them is, we're not saying no. We're either gonna go out there and do it, or we're gonna find a solution for them. Because, we are here to perform a service, and residents need their help. So, and then another thing is working on education before enforcement. Our goal is really to inform pet owners about ordinances, best practices, and then resources available to them. If it's something egregious, we are definitely going to go to enforcement. But for the most part, people make mistakes, whether it be they don't know what the laws are, or culturally they're used to something different. So working on educating them, and then any other interaction in the future is the enforcement.
What does the proactive role look like? Do they, I'll just let you, let me just ask that question.
So they're not sitting at their desk in the animal services waiting for their get-a-go call.
Okay.
They're in their trucks at all times,
Oh.
patrolling neighborhoods, patrolling parts of the city where there's typically more animals dumped.
Okay.
Having conversations with dog owners as, they're walking their dog, hey, is your dog microchipped, stuff like that.
Good. No, that's great.
And we've ordered the Chromebooks to install to make it easier for them to have their office in the field. So the expectation is to be out in the field.
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you.
It was kind of like one of the, in fact, I got to tell you, it's kind of a funny story because Melissa's done some things. I go like, I wish I had thought of that, like unlocking the door, or to encourage the officers to get out in the field. She took we took their desks away.
Okay.
Now
It's not to be mean.
it's not to be mean, but we tell them, your expectation is to be out in the field, and instead of each have your own desk, you have to share a workstation. So they have a place to do all the things that they need to do, because sometimes you have lengthy reports you got to write, and it's not fair to make them do it in a truck out in the field. But it sends a message like, hey, you're supposed to be out in the community. But and I'm not poking at the employees, but under previous administrations, they were told to just be in the shelter and wait. So there's a lot of things that, so.
No, I think it's great. Like you said, just what you said about them having conversations.
Yes.
If they see a community member, and that's going to help I say rebuild or continue to build the relationship with the city and the shelter. And I love it that they're out and about all the time. I think it's great.
Yeah, they didn't like it at first
Uh-huh.
because it was a change, but I think now it seems like
They're happy.
they're happier.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you.
To give you just a kind of an update on our feral cat management programs, or our TNR. Currently, we have about 20 different colonies. They fall under the oversight of, each colony is, I guess, overseen by a person in the community that works with our officers to make sure that animals in that colony are spayed and neutered and cared for. So far this year, we have altered 104 cats within those colonies. We do sometimes get random calls about, I have this group of cats that are hanging outside my house. We're trying to find a good balance. As I mentioned earlier, I feel really obligated to taxpayer money. So what I don't want is residents calling for us to alter their personal cat or dog. But when it comes to these cats, what we've told them is, we'll alter that cat. If it is adoptable, we can adopt it out, then we will keep the cat and we'll adopt it out to the public. If it's feral, you can take it home and return it. To try to balance, that stewardship we have.
Who's the person in First Colony that's the First Colony?
Yes.
The
I have to,
community
yeah.
itself, I mean, the shops itself, that was a big issue and that's where it started. I think all of this is fine, but if you don't have anything to back it up, to me, it's just verbiage.
Yeah. So we have an officer who has the relationship with each person of each one of those colonies. And I could connect you.
Colony Mall that had a huge, and still has a huge issue.
Okay.
So who is the person in First Colony Mall?
Yeah. I would have.
I got the name, but I can't recall. But yeah,
Some board need names of those people who you claim are in charge of the community that they represent.
I could pass your information off to our officer and she could contact you and she could.
That's fine. I mean, you can do anything you want, but stating all these great things with no substance.
what is your question on substance? What was your question on substance? Well, I think what Melissa was saying is that, it started with the community caretaker cat program. But then we also have a lot of people that will have feral colonies. And so we're trying to find what is the best way. Because if we tell someone, no, you don't really qualify for the technical aspects of the community caretaker cat program, then their 6 kittens will become 20, will become 50 before we know it. So we're trying to figure out how do we do what's best for the animals without wasting taxpayer money, just spaying everybody's cats. And so we're trying to strike a balance with that. So there are people that, or neighbors, I live next door to you and I've got, 5 or 6 feral cats that go into your yard. What can you do about it legally? So sometimes not everybody that has feral colonies is wanting to take care of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't answer my question.
And what is your question?
DNR started First Colony Mall because it was an overrun of kittens,
Right.
feral cats. That's where it started. You're saying that you have people in these areas that are and we used to have them in the mall. I haven't seen them for a long time.
The
I mean,
person or the
what are you
cat?
doing like in the mall? Because that's where one of the things all started, not all of
Okay,
it.
well, if somebody has,
I'm saying, who's the person? Who's the organization?
The officer.
Catch and release program for the mall.
I gotta have the officer reach out to you and give that.
fine, or Ashford or Meadows.
But I mean, I guess so I just want to
It's
qualify that.
Nancy. It's her name's Nancy.
Yeah, she comes in a lot, but I just want to qualify that we can't legally mandate, they do something. If somebody, starts a colony because they have feral cats and they move out of town, it's not like they're violating the law,
I
but
know the procedure.
Okay.
I totally mean.
I was just trying to get your question.
You may not know that much on the board is we are experts. We're just not somebody that got bored with our retirement. I mean, we know what we're doing and we know a lot of background and we are here for the public and for the community.
Okay, I was just trying to identify what your specific question. Oh.
All right. So the officers also handle cruelty and police related intakes. So far this year, they've managed several cases. 2 dogs were seized and transferred to a rescue partner out in Dripping Springs. 10 dogs were seized in another case, 2 of which were returned to their owners, 8 were adopted out to the shelter. In a separate case, we have 1 dog was seized and awarded custody to Animal Services. We're still waiting on the county signed order, so we still have that dog in our care. And then we had a case involving 8 seized dogs, 1 of which was pregnant, and had 4 puppies, and all 12 we were able to get adopted out. Just to keep in mind that these cases are really resource intensive, but it really demonstrates our commitment to ensuring that the animals in our jurisdiction are cared for. We have had some issues recently with dumping. I think we've had 4, 5 in the last couple of weeks at Animal Services, where we come in and there's either a kennel or they're tied up to something. We're trying to address that. It's challenging because under the law, it's illegal, but an animal shelter could be considered a sanctuary. So in our recent regional directors meeting, we found out that at one of the other shelters since you cannot necessarily get them on that, they can do theft of services. And so we're working with PD to see if we can at least charge them with theft of services. Because we really need it to stop. It's cruel and we watch the videos and it's hard to watch. So, but I feel like if we can't go after them for abandonment because nobody's willing to take that really goes to the county and the county is not going to take that case on, but the city will take on the theft of charges. So we're working on the details of that right now. All right, so these are I'd say my strategic priorities over the next few months. When I came on board, standard operating procedures, they're all over the place. They're not even in the same place together necessarily. There's some that contradict each other. So we're taking a look at it as a whole. We're gonna take what they have there and rewrite them. So bringing consistency, accountability, and clarity through writing new standard operating procedures. Second, we really want to solidify that customer service first. So every interaction with our residents is an opportunity to rebuild that trust that's not there. So really drilling it into our staff that, customer service first. If it has to be bad news, come get a supervisor. Let's see what all the options are before. Third, continue to expand our field presence and our responsiveness. Really making sure that our officers are accessible. One thing I did mention is when I got here, they were no longer dealing with wildlife. We're working on that now, and they're starting to respond. The fourth improve outcomes through targeted advocacy, so adoption events, strengthening our partnerships, so through our animal advocacy meeting, through our regional shelter management meetings. And then finally, prioritizing animal adoption pathways and community engagement. So building up those partnerships with like Petco, Space Cowboys, making sure that the animals are out there. Not everybody wants to come to animal services. It's sad. So finding a way that we get these animals out in the community and they're seen. So these priorities ensure that we're staying aligned with our mission, and that we continue to build trust within the community and grow as a department.
Well, are we going into like elementary schools?
No, but we just met with Fort Bend ISD to it's a partnership. How many schools is it? Do you know, Sandra? Five. To go into 5 schools and provide regular curriculum. We're building those relationships.
Would we be taking an animal with us?
We don't know exactly what it looks like. We have to, so with, I don't know, in education, they have very strict, this is what they need to learn. And so they call TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge. So they have to tell us kind of which ones they want us to work on. And then we have to figure out what that looks like. Ideally, yes.
Thank you for the work with the wildlife. We can tell for our intakes for Fort Bend Wildlife Rescue. One question though, on number 1, are you going to be reviewing and working with the policy and procedure subcommittee, or how do you envision working with the animal advisory board?
So we are looking at hiring an organization that does this professionally. Taking everything that the city already has, they are going to come out, look at operations, look at the new shelter and what that looks like, putting something together. It would definitely be something that I brought to y'all, probably in more of like a final draft for us to go over and to get y'all's feedback before it was like finalized, since the staff began training on it. All right, planning for our new shelter. This is really off since I started here. I think they had these meetings scheduled, gosh, within my first week. They had already gotten started. So just in case anybody doesn't know, it's going to be at Imperial Park. Okay. We, along with the architects, went around to several organizations locally that have had newer shelters, I would say within the last 10-15 years, to see what their staff says works and doesn't work. We really want the new shelter. It's important that it is more welcoming than our current, so we want to hold a lot more events at it. So we're trying to keep that in mind. So this is kind of where we're at. I don't know the facility. It will address space because we currently don't have any. The current capacity of our shelter is 27 dogs, 54 cats. The new shelter will have room for 75 dogs and 120 cats. So a pretty significant growth. When we came on board, the previous administrations had a floor plan in place, but it wasn't very functional. One of the things that we had noticed is there was no clinic or surgical space, and the officers spend so much of their time driving animals back and forth to get spayed and neutered, treated, that logistically, we didn't think that was a good idea. So we really asked them to kind of start over and reimagine that space, as well as flow. I think not everybody who had an idea of the project had worked in a shelter before. So realizing like, you know, you don't want to do intake in the middle of a shelter where you're taking all these animals, spreading disease potentially. So our priorities really were making sure that the kennel designs were larger, so the dogs have indoor and outdoor runs. Originally, they were only gonna be indoor. Increasing the square footage, for the dogs, making it less stressful, so hopefully they're better easily adopted or looking at the flow, eliminating inefficiencies of our current building, incorporating multi-space room for meetings. So instead of a break room for the staff, it is gonna be a multi-purpose room where on a normal day, like staff can just go in there and eat their lunch. But it serves a bigger purpose where we can have large meetings, educational events. And then improving capacity. So this is the proposed floor plan so far. So some things that is increasing the size we have of our play yard. So there's still 4. We're really constrained by that site. It's kind of just a tight area. But having 4 large play yards, which are these 3. That's another small one right here. This would be for our quarantine dogs. So if it's part of a case of neglect, so those dogs don't have to stay in their kennel all the time. It will have 2 entrances. Our main entrance would be up here that goes into the lobby, and then it will have a second intake entrance so we can help people with the pet pantry every day. Or if they are needing any other resources, they can come into the side, or they'll come in up front and we'll send them to the side so we can have, conversations with them. These are all indoor outdoor kennels, and the whole top area up here is for cats. So you have your cats and your dogs really separated. And then this large area right here is the multi-purpose room. So staff break room, but really any events, educational opportunities. Questions about it?
Are you gonna talk about the timing?
Oh, timing, yes. So far, we're working with Animal or PGAL, which is locally, they're the architect. They had hired Animal Arts to design the building. So we're working with the 2 of them. We recently interviewed different builders, and we chose Kitchell. Kitchell has a lot of experience. We went with them because they have extensive experience working with animal facilities. And you really want somebody who knows animal facilities because they are unique. So I thought I had to go before council, but however, the way the Kitchell structured their fees, that it doesn't need to. We are starting our weekly meetings with the architect and the builder this afternoon. And we will meet with them every Monday going forward. One of the things that we liked about Kitchell is when they start to build the site, they have signage along the fencing where you can scan a QR code for any resident, and it will give you up-to-date weekly progress notes on where we are with the shelter. I believe they're breaking ground next June. I believe it's next June. And they think it'll take a year, so the following June. So
June of 27 is the target date for it to be open, pending weather and things like that. Any supply chain issues, whatever, but I think they're pretty optimistic they can.
yes, ma'am.
So we can begin breaking ground before the bond is sold, or do we have the money to do that?
The city, the 2 million that we're required to raise, the city's already paid it. And then we just have to pay it back so that we can move forward and we're not waiting on that. Questions?
Are those lines between the kennels, is it like Pearland where we can send people back to look and there's a low wall so they're not up next to the dog sticking their fingers?
Yes, so they're actually, it's like Pearland, so you go down a hallway And each pod is completely separate, so you're not riling up the dogs every time somebody wants to walk down there. It also really helps with disease because if, say, we get kennel cough in here, all the other ones should, as long as staff is appropriately washing their hands, should not go throughout. But yes, you'll walk down the hallway. These are windows that you can look in at the animals. All right. So finally, what I foresee your role, I want to say this is, to answer your question, this is not, there's legal requirements. And so the legal requirements is that you review and recommend procedures for what the care of the animals as well as our facility, just to make sure that it lines up with state law. And that we periodically look at ordinances. I don't plan on changing that. That's state law. You know, when we get the SOPs, we will show them to you, get your feedback. But this I need help with. So first, advocacy, it's really critical. If once we get our, y'all are gonna look at our strategic plan before even, you know, it's rolled out to everybody else. So helping share our mission, vision, and successes with the community. Help us with correcting misinformation, promote transparency, and kind of help us build that trust back. There's a lot of times where, you know, there's a rumor out there. As staff, we can't say anything, but you know, if y'all are up there or you ask, we can give you that information. You can help us kind of build those relationships back. Second, fundraising. To support the major area that, I mean, this will make a huge difference with the new shelter. Working with the Legacy Foundation. So the Legacy Foundation wants to partner with the board or a subcommittee of the board to come up with ideas on how to raise that money. Presence in the community. If you can help us with engagement, we would invite you to come out to our adoption events, our volunteer, foster, help us represent the shelter in civic and professional circles. And finally, providing that strategic input. We're really, you know, you represent the community and bringing their concerns to us in a constructive way is very helpful. Okay. Question. All right. These are the dates for the next meetings. I know we have them on Mondays, so I don't know they've changed them a lot for y'all. Unless there's some emergency or they fire all of us, we will keep these dates going forward.
So it's not now automatically the second Monday of the month. Okay.
I try to look at dates where they're not around holidays and like kids go back to school so that we can all come together. And we're required to have 3. I went with 5 just based on kind of avoiding those holidays and major times where people have stuff.
Hey. Then I guess that will take us to amendment and this meeting will be adjourned.